Hi, I'm Balaji Pasumarthy, the founder of Liberated Enterprise Creators. There's a lot of buzz about work. Will AI change work? How many hours should people be working? 70 hours a week, 4 days a week? Should people be allowed to work from home? So many questions about how to work. But before we talk about the how, possibly we need to talk about how we feel at work. Because my relationship with work has been long, painful, and eventually a liberating journey. And I share this because I know many of you are on the same path. For me, it started early. Until the fifth grade in school, that's the first exposure or experience to work. Work was absolutely hell. I was terrible at it. People would look at my report card and just feel good about their own grades. I was in the bottom of the class. My parents tried everything: tuitions, counseling, threats, rewards. But it was of just no use. I will never forget one day in Dhanbad. I was walking home after playing with friends, feeling happy for a moment. And then I saw my dad sitting on the veranda holding my report card. He was clearly upset and possibly had tried everything and he just didn't know what to do. He looked at me, took a sharp pin in his hand, showed it to me, and said, "Balaji, if you don't do well in class, I'll prick your finger with this pin." That was his threat. I was shaken. I was frightened. I was lost. That was my first lesson in management. Work is something you do because you are afraid of the consequences. But fear did not make me get better grades. I remained in the bottom of the class. A few years later, everything changed in a single moment. I was walking towards the car park after a movie with my parents, and suddenly I heard a teacher call out my name. You can imagine the dread for a student like me with parents just behind me. I braced myself. I thought, oh no, here comes another lecture in front of my parents about how I need to work hard, how I need to be smarter, and so on and so forth. I walked up tense, waiting for the scolding, but to my absolute surprise, the teacher looked at me and said, "Balaji, you have done well in your test." I was stunned. Something clicked at that moment. A thought appeared. Wait, I can actually do well in academics? That tiny spark of validation changed my behavior. I started mixing with the brighter students. I remember actually reading a book titled How to Be a Good Student. I started improving in my grades and was soon among the top in the class. That spark grew. By the time I was preparing for my engineering entrance exams, the IIT entrance exams, one of the toughest exams in the country, I was putting in insane hours. I remember my mother seeing me surrounded by books and saying, "Balaji, you're working too hard, go out and play." And I remember thinking, why is she saying this to me? I'm enjoying this. I was in the flow. Even the tough problems were a joy. I wasn't feeling time pass. That was my second lesson. Real work is not drudgery. Real work is joy. Real work is joy. I made it to IIT Madras, then to IIM Bangalore. I joined the Unilever Group, one of the best companies on the planet. I had made it. But within 3 months, all that joy vanished. I felt frustrated and lost, just like that kid in the fifth grade. Work was no longer joy. I felt like a cog in the giant wheel. I saw practices that terrified me about my future. I saw a vice president, a man whose position I aspired to, describe work life where he was on the road 25 days a month And his idea of family was calling his wife once a day. I realized that if I felt this empty in the best company, then something fundamental about the corporate world itself was broken. So I quit. I decided to build my own business. And I asked myself, why am I doing this? It wasn't for success or money. I was already on that path with my IT and IM background and the best company to work for. So I told myself, it's really about quality of life. So I made two unbreakable promises to myself. Promise one, work must be a joy, not just for me, but for my team. Promise two, I must be the master of my own time. I started Golden Square offices in 1995. I'm a pioneer in the co-working industry. My entrepreneurial journey was a learning journey, a series of experiments on how to make my promises come true. I experimented with trust, giving autonomy, and with enabling self-organization. Soon I was able to leave the daily operations for my first business to my team. That freedom allowed me to build other ventures. I built BNI Bangalore for 16 years into one of the largest and successful regions in the world. I launched the Business Gyan magazine, which ran for nearly 10 years and read by CXOs in Bangalore. I even built Mentor Square, a community with more than 100 successful mentors, and then several other ventures. As I was able to be a serial entrepreneur because my teams had taken ownership of the work that needed to be done. For years, I just thought this was my way of doing things. Then around 2016, other entrepreneurs started noticing. They saw my team at Golden Square making decisions like business owners, even deciding whether to open or close branches. And they saw me. They saw that I had the time for so many different ventures, time for my family, while their own business was consuming their lives. They asked, Balaji, how do you do it? That question birthed Liberated Enterprise Creators. Since then, it has become a movement. More than 400 entrepreneurs have attended our workshops, are in the process of making these transformations. Around 70 of them have implemented a lot and moved significantly in the direction of creating liberated enterprises. From tech companies to design agencies to manufacturing plants with blue-collar workers, they're all taking extreme ownership. We are seeing leaders find peace and teams finding purpose. Why does this matter? Because I meet so many leaders who are successful on the outside, but exhausted on the inside. You have built a great business, but you feel stuck in what I call the success trap. It's a golden cage. You can't complain because you have it all, but you are still the chief firefighter. You're still the engine that has to pull the entire train every single day. You realize that success without fulfillment is just a very comfortable form of drudgery. This is my journey from feeling trapped to feeling liberated. Now I know who I'm talking to. You are smart, competent leaders. You know how to play the game of profit. You understand the mechanics of scale. But here is what I know about smart leaders. You are never satisfied with the status quo. You are always looking for a better, smarter way. The next frontier, the smarter game, is mastering volition. It's about building an organization that generates its own energy. An organization where work isn't a trade-off for life, but a source of life. We should aspire to be high on both. We should aspire to be fulfilled. If you're the kind of leader who is tired of the success trap, not because you can't handle it, but because you know your time and life are worth more, then you're ready for what's next. Lean in, let's upgrade the way we work.